Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear. From this day forward, it's going to be only America first.
Will he be an agent of change?
It's unfair what's happened to the people of our country, and we're going to change it.
What I am hoping to see from Trump is rebuilding America.
If his presidency is successful, I think he will redefine the Republican Party.
He wants to lead Washington, but he also wants to blow up the way business is done in Washington.
Can he break through Washington gridlock?
He often says to me, I want the government to run better, more like a business. I think if he's partially successful at that he will have made a major difference for everybody.
And now that you guys have gone all the way, what does that feel like to you?
You have to sit back and kind of pinch yourself.
It is hard to put into words the emotion when your father becomes president of the United States of America.
Not my president! Not my president!
How will he govern a nation divided?
The things he said about other people is not what a president should say.
Civility has just gone out the window. These folks feel empowered now to say and do hateful things.
I just hear Muslims are terrorists, Muslims are bad. I just feel really heartbroken.
He spoke of unity for all Americans.
When you open your heart to patriotism, there is no room for prejudice.
The world is watching.
Together, we will make America great again. Thank you, God bless you, and God bless America.
Change and challenge. The inauguration of Donald Trump. Now from Washington, D.C., Gayle King and John Dickerson.
Good evening to you. It was quite a day. Donald Trump became the 45th president of the United States today with a bold and defiant vow to transform the country. Mr. Trump was administered the oath of office with former President Obama and 3 other previous presidents behind him, along with Hillary Clinton.
His inaugural address painted a dark picture of the state of the country. The speech was a battle plan and took direct aim at the Washington establishment, but he offered few policy specifics.
Hundreds of thousands of people filled the National Mall, but the crowds appeared to fall short of the early estimates.
Just blocks from the Capitol, police used pepper spray and stun grenades to confront violent protesters. Police arrested more than 200 people. 6 officers were injured, but the rioting was isolated.
More than 60 Democratic House members skipped the inauguration today. Some were protesting the president's feud with Congressman John Lewis. Lewis, as you know, questioned Mr. Trump's legitimacy because of Russian interference in the election.
President Trump returned to the White House this evening, and he got right to work. In the Oval Office, in the past hour, he signed an executive order to, quote, ease the burden of the Affordable Care Act.
Well, he said he would get right to work immediately, and he did. The order goes out to all federal agencies that deal with President Obama's signature achievement. What it does is still not clear. He also signed commissions for his defense and homeland security secretaries.
President Trump's administration begins with just a fraction of his nominees approved by Congress. Major Garrett looks at the great experiment undertaken by the American people.
Congratulations, Mr. President.
In a moment as historic as it was unexpected, President Donald J. Trump took the oath of office, laying out a broad blueprint of his vision for America.
We will face challenges. We will confront hardships, but we will get the job done.
For the 45th president, who, according to the latest CBS News poll, brings a record low 32% favorable rating to the Oval Office, that means confronting business as usual in Washington, D.C.
We are transferring power from Washington, D.C., and giving it back to you, the people.
There were tough words about dark times.
The crime and the gangs and the drugs that have stolen too many lives and robbed our country of so much unrealized potential. This American carnage stops right here and stops right now.
If his presidency is successful, I think he will redefine the Republican Party.
Dan Senor was a close advisor to President George W. Bush and GOP nominee Mitt Romney. You were visibly opposed to Trump. What is your current state of mind?
My current state of mind is cautiously optimistic.
For him, like many Republicans, watching Mr. Trump's ascent to the White House has been and remains something of a journey.
And now we are looking only to the future.
In the next year, we could have comprehensive tax reform, healthcare reform, and you could have a conservative successor sworn into the Supreme Court. Just those three things alone. And as a conservative, you think, wow.
If I hear you correctly, it's as if Ronald Reagan has returned, except he has a working partner on Capitol Hill, which he didn't when he was president.
He's not Ronald Reagan, but he can unleash something that is comparable to a Reagan-like agenda. I will say I'm pleasantly surprised by something else. I had no idea the kind of team that Donald Trump, as president, would assemble.
You were fearful of the team he might assemble.
Correct.
President Trump's cabinet picks illustrate his approach to governing. He prefers strong personalities and loyalty over policy pedigrees. Some picks are controversial. Generals,
General Kelly,
billionaires, and millionaires who are used to calling the shots.
So help you God.
I do, sir.
Will Mr. Trump listen to them when they contradict his positions?
Wouldn't it be nice if we actually did get along with Russia?
Russia today poses a danger.
Many of his choices have already disagreed with him in contentious confirmation hearings.
The most important thing is that we recognize the reality of what we deal with Mr. Putin.
Would I approve waterboarding? You bet your ass I'd approve it.
If you were ordered by the president to restart the CIA's use of enhanced interrogation techniques that fall outside of the Army Field Manual, would you comply?
Senator, absolutely not.
Secretary of Homeland Security John Kelly was confirmed today, as was Secretary of Defense James Mattis.
I, Ronald Reagan, do solemnly swear.
Ronald Reagan was a conservative.
That I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States.
Bill Clinton was a moderate.
Preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States.
Barack Obama, may be a progressive. Donald Trump is a Trumpist, and we're going to find out what that means.
Washington flourished, but the people did not share in its wealth.
President Trump will rely a lot more on charisma than ideology, says Mark Leibovich, who spent months observing him on the campaign trail for the New York Times. He's also a CBS News consultant.
A lot of the business of Washington is predicated on things not getting done.
House be in order.
Donald Trump is going to have an abiding faith in his own ability to go into a room and actually force things by will of personality, negotiation, what have you, into just changing into being.
We will no longer accept politicians who are all talk and no action, constantly complaining, but never doing anything about it. Now arrives the hour of action.
As the new president settles in for his first night at the most exclusive address in America, the millions who supported him felt tied to his agenda. Hopes are he will be a president for all Americans.
Your voice, your hopes, and your dreams will define our American destiny.
President Trump begins a job surrounded by the people he trusts the most, his children. The close-knit family has been by his side from the day he launched his campaign. We spoke to the president's son, Eric, about what this moment means.
Eric Trump, here we sit. What runs through your mind when you hear the 45th president of the United States? Go.
It's incredible. We worked so hard. He worked so hard, but as a family, we came together like never before.
I get all of that, but I'm talking about the nitty and the gritty of the family. There must have been a moment where you guys have behind closed doors done the hula or said, oh my gosh, we did it. That's what I want to know. I want to know that moment.
Yeah, the can you believe it moment.
Yes.
Because we were against all odds. I mean, we were outraised, fundraised 6-7 to 1. We had the media against us in the vast majority of cases. We had the entire political elite against us. It was interesting. We only got 6% of the vote in Washington D.C. And I thought that was very, very telling, but yet you win the election. And I think that tells the disparity between Washington and the people of this country. And my father spoke to the people of this nation, and he won. And honestly, I could not be more proud of him.
Proud is the word of the day. They said they take great pride, John, that everybody betted against them, and they pulled it off.
And they're now all coming to Washington.
Yes, they are. 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. Here we come. We'll have more of my conversation with Eric Trump a little bit later in the broadcast. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Anyone who thought President Trump would moderate his unpredictable and incendiary rhetoric for his inaugural address was proven wrong. Again. He opened his presidency with a bang, just as he's done all his life.
America will start winning again.
President Donald Trump has made it very clear he's coming to Washington to change the rules.
He wants to lead Washington, but he also wants to blow up the way business is done in Washington.
Michael Kranish is an investigative journalist with The Washington Post who co-authored the biography Trump Revealed. He says to understand how Trump will govern, go back to his roots.
When he was very young, he liked to play catcher in Little League, and he liked to be behind the plate and chide the opposing batters. He beat people up. He's proudly talked about punching his music teacher.
To gain the advantage,
I'd like to punch him in the face, I'll tell you.
Donald Trump likes to unsettle things. It was evident in his campaign.
Where I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody, and I wouldn't lose any voters, okay? It's like incredible.
Certainly, he is a provocateur. There's no question about that.
We'll be number one. The right management, we're number one. Nobody competes with it.
Trump's goal is one that's been with him from an early age: winning.
Why is winning so important to Donald Trump? Where did that come from?
I think this comes in part from his father, Fred Trump.
Fred Trump was a self-made millionaire land developer who helped his fourth of 5 children sharpen his competitive drive in the rough world of New York real estate.
And what did it mean to you when you were a young teenager and you heard the word Trump?
Competition for LaFrac.
Real estate tycoon Richard LaFrac has known Donald Trump for more than 40 years.
Both our dads were building, middle-income apartments. I would say they were friendly competitors.
Fred Trump is also the key to understanding why son Donald connects with the working class.
We often would laugh, what did you do with your father on Saturday and go to the construction site? And who was there working on the construction site? Harvard professors, right? No, or, they were working men and women.
If Trump got his drive from his father, he modeled his combative style after the late attorney Roy Cohn. Cohn served as chief counsel for communist hunter Joseph McCarthy during the Senators' crusades of the 1950s. Cohn defended Fred and Donald Trump against the U.S. Justice Department when it sued them for racial bias in 1973.
The Justice Department said that Donald Trump and his father had discriminated against blacks by basically having their employees note who was a black applicant for housing. Roy Cohn basically said to Donald Trump, fight the government, fight like hell, don't give up. When they hit you, hit back 100 times harder. And in fact, Cohn then countersued the government for $100 million.
The Trumps eventually settled without an admission of guilt, but the episode was a bitter one.
I think there is a straight line between Donald Trump's experience in 1973 and Trump's animus towards some parts of the federal government today.
Though his career started in partnership with his father, Trump was determined to make a name for himself.
I think he wanted to top his father. Donald wanted to do everything bigger, better, and he did.
That meant going beyond his father's deals in Brooklyn and Queens and into Manhattan. Trump took advantage of New York City's financial crisis. In the 1980s, he bought up properties, extracting a huge tax break along the way, and transformed the city's skyline with Trump Tower.
I just have a certain amount of confidence that if I want to do something, I can do it.
Bravado was part of his style.
Okay, so do it as soon as you can.
But so was the flexibility to negotiate.
He uses his charisma, he uses the force of his personality, his celebrity, to get what he wants.
Trump also bought 3 Atlantic City casinos, an airline, and the Mar-a-Lago estate. But along the way, he figured out that his greatest asset was his name, as he told 60 Minutes' Mike Wallace in a 1985 interview.
What about the name of Trump City? Trump Tower we're sitting in, Trump Plaza, Trump Castle.
It sells, Mike. All I know is...
That's all it is?
Has nothing to do with the ego. All I know is it sells.
Luxury branding was Trump's real innovation, says Lefrak. Was that a big innovation, small innovation? Give us a sense of in your world.
Huge. It was huge. It was a big innovation.
By the 1990s, Trump's tower of acquisitions collapsed. He had 2 highly publicized divorces, and his casinos were failing.
Critics call the Taj Mahal the 8th blunder of the business world.
He was not winning. The period would ultimately show just how far Trump would go to keep himself, and only himself, in the game.
In the end, all 3 casinos had to file corporate bankruptcy, and Donald Trump had to pull every lever possible so he didn't go into personal bankruptcy. He then created a public company which paid him millions of dollars at a share price of $35, but it went down to 17 cents. And shareholders say, look, you're just using this company to enrich yourself. But Donald Trump said at the time, you know, I was looking out for me. I was looking out for Donald Trump.
Do you wish we'd all go away?
Absolutely.
Donald Trump survived and over the next decade worked to repair his brand. Then, in 2004, came The Apprentice. Trump says the 14 seasons of the show earned him more than $200 million.
And you could see that the camera loved him and he loved the camera.
You're fired.
But his time on television also taught him how to reach the audience that would elect him.
We're going to win so much.
Well, without The Apprentice, I don't think we'd be sitting here talking about a President Trump. For most Americans, seeing him in that big chair, running things, he sort of looked like a chairman or a president.
Now he will sit at the desk in the Oval Office in the White House, his biggest real estate acquisition yet, pulled off by breaking nearly every convention of politics.
I'm not going to give you a question.
Can you stay categorically?
You are fake news.
Sir,
go ahead.
Can you stay
Donald Trump is promising to be a standards-breaking president.
Go ahead.
Whether through his manic use of Twitter, is he thin-skinned?
I'll let you be the judge of that.
Or his gentle attitude towards Russia.
If Putin likes Donald Trump, guess what, folks? That's called an asset, not a liability. Now,
And the one constant of a Trump presidency may be the man himself, and his staying true to his own ambitious, confrontational, and unpredictable brand.
And, you know, if he feels he can accomplish something by doing an end run, he'll do it.
Donald Trump said he'll blow up the establishment. It's a promise he made again today. Before coming to Washington, he succeeded by creating chaos. Now he has about 325 million business partners, and the test will be whether he can govern a country that way. We'll be right back.
I'm Erin Moriarty. To understand how we got to this day and this inauguration, I came to one of the more unlikely places that made it possible.
You're listening to AM 1050.
15 below wind chill. Ouch.
Kenosha County, Wisconsin, which for the first time in 44 years voted Republican.
Hey, why? Why'd you vote for Donald Trump?
It's not easy, as radio personality Lou Ragani discovered, to get people here to admit they went against tradition.
Come on, admit it. You voted for Trump, didn't you? Sure you did.
Georgiana Counterman, a lifelong Democrat, struggled with her decision.
I figured I'll take a chance on him.
And then told no one.
My family does not know.
Are they finding out for the first time right now?
Yes.
Donald Trump won this county by only a small margin, just 255 votes. But it was a resounding statement that many here feel is overdue.
We'll make America great again, okay?
Retired Sheriff Fred Eckernes, insurance agent Steve Simonovich,
Different things about Kenosha.
and teacher Christy Lacrae.
President Trump, that sounds kind of cool saying it, doesn't it? President Trump.
He's got a lot of energy. He's got a lot of enthusiasm.
Strong leader, a person that has a get-it-done attitude.
When Donald Trump says, "Make America Great Again," what does that mean to you?
It means setting a tone. It means being proud of the country.
That catchphrase evokes a cherished past when Kenosha County was still a manufacturing hub.
We feel we are salt-of-the-earth people. We're hardworking people.
Lynette Anderson taught in the same middle school she once attended. She co-wrote a third-grade textbook on Kenosha, chronicling its past as a Union stronghold in factories run by American Brass, Jockey, Snap-on Tools, and most prominently, American Motors.
As much as some people may have considered it to be a company town, that company provided its citizens with a great way of life. I mean, we really had it great.
Pat Moran was mayor in 1988 when Chrysler, which bought American Motors, suddenly closed the factory, leaving 5,500 people out of work. Does this make you sad every time you come over here?
Very sad. It's like a relative in the family that's died.
During the general election, while Trump campaigned in Wisconsin, Hillary Clinton did not. Moran says Kenosans have long felt neglected by the Democratic Party.
I don't want to hear about transgender bathrooms and political correctness from Hillary Clinton as being the most important issue. I want to know about jobs.
There are jobs here. The unemployment rate at 4.2% is actually lower than the national average. There are opportunities in the new Amazon distribution center and in retail.
All you people out there, I want to say welcome, and I want to tell you
And Lou Ragani says Kenosha has been reinventing itself as a bedroom community for white-collar workers employed elsewhere.
I'm pretty high on what Kenosha can offer and has offered over the past 20, 25 years.
But these Trump voters want to see higher wages and Kenosha's identity restored.
We need to make things. We don't make anything anymore here.
And you think he's going to be able to bring manufacturing back to Kenosha?
I think so.
He's been successful throughout his whole life.
If someone could bring back decent paying jobs again, I think that's a step in the right direction.
Lynette didn't vote for Trump, but she is rooting for him.
I'm excited to see what's going to get done.
But are you at all worried then they may not keep his promises?
I'm hoping he won't keep all of them.
She hopes President Trump will rethink his stand on a Muslim ban and the mass deportation of undocumented immigrants, a concern that Christie brushes aside.
And it's not like we're going to wake up on a Tuesday and all of a sudden every, illegal immigrant is going to be gone. It doesn't work that way. We know that.
And Georgiana Counterman worries deregulation could have consequences.
My biggest mixed feeling is with the environment. Denying global warming is just silly.
But she, like so many others here, believes that Trump's brash and unconventional style will push through change. What will you judge him by?
So I'm going to look at my country, I'm going to look at my neighbors, I'm going to look at everything and say, it's been 4 years. Are we better off than we were 4 years ago? And if the answer is no, and he is directly the reason why, then yeah, you're fired.
Change and challenge. The inauguration of Donald Trump.
Donald Trump brought a powerful message of change to the nation's capital today as he was inaugurated as the 45th President of the United States. In a blunt and sometimes strident address, he vowed to shake up Washington and restore the country's greatness. And he made a pledge to the nation. From this moment on, it's going to be America first.
John, a lot of people leaving the mall today said that's exactly why I voted for him. He said exactly what I wanted to hear today.
That's right. Gave them what they wanted.
It resonated with a lot today. Perhaps no one knows the president's tough rhetoric better than his adult children. It's how they were raised. And Eric Trump told us it's created an unmistakable bond within the family.
They are now officially the first family. And no one could have predicted the road would end here.
And now that you guys have gone all the way, what does that feel like to you?
Well, listen, I just think you have to sit back and kind of pinch yourself. I mean, he's the most powerful man in the world, and we're now the first family of the United States, and I think you have to take that responsibility incredibly seriously.
Listen, a lot of people were very happy with the election and the victory of Donald J. Trump, but not everybody was happy. There were some bruised feelings, some bruised egos. People felt that he doesn't care about women's rights, about immigration, about civil rights in some respect. What will he do, Eric, to ease people's fears, to bring the country together?
My father's a great unifier. I've seen it my entire life, and unfortunately we have a very divided country.
I think that's good, it sounds good, but how will he do that? A lot of people are afraid and worried.
Yeah, it's very simple. He'll start putting America first again. And all too often we think of ourselves as Republicans versus Democrats. And I think there's a lot of people who probably fall somewhere in the middle.
What's your biggest fear for your dad as he's about to take a new chapter in his life, and all your lives, really?
I think having a lot of new people around him. And, as a family, we've always been a little bit insular. It was my father, it was Don, Ivanka, myself, meaning in the company. And we were very, very close. And obviously, the United States government is, the largest company, you might want to call it, right, in the world. The amount of people there, not every person will have his best interest at heart. It's very different than in a family company where everybody has your best interest at heart.
Ivanka's been described as that she will probably be the most influential first daughter.
And I love knowing that she's going to be in Washington because, quite frankly, I think it's always great to have an unbiased sounding board. And that's the role that we, as children, can take. And I'm really glad she'll be down there and by his side if you were to need her.
Ivanka was by his side today, as were all his children, the first family in the spotlight. That's nothing new for the Trumps. Eric was just a freshman in college when CBS did a story about father and son.
Sit up.
The CBS archives, as you might expect, is extensive.
Oh no, I can't wait to see this.
And we found this. I love this video.
I really look up to him. He's an amazing work ethic. He's a visionary, of course. His passion succeeds, just unbelievable. He really is a mentor for me, and I know a lot of other people, but he's amazing the way he performs business, and just watching him work is just something that I think a lot of people can be inspired by.
Wow, okay.
That's incredible.
So Eric, that video is 2003, and you basically said back in 2003 what you just said moments ago about your dad.
I believe it.
Yeah.
I mean, I believe it. And quite frankly, I think it's more reinforced now than ever before. He is going to work. And he is going to work, and he is going to work. My father is the first person in the office in the morning. He's the last person to leave. He works 7 days a week, 365 days a year. He's going to put Washington back to work, and our government's going to start working for the people again.
Except they did say he's going to take the weekend off and then start on Monday.
Is that acceptable, Gayle?
Yeah, no, listen. Since you have his ear, all of you do, and I know that you feel comfortable saying anything to him, have you just said anything about the tweets? Surely there's been times, Eric, when you go, geez, Dad, did you have to do that? Yeah. Or why don't you just ignore that?
Yeah, I think so. I don't think every family member always agrees with absolutely everything. What I can tell you is my father's Twitter is an incredible vehicle for him. I think that mentality, maybe does it go too far once in a while? Sure.
Except when you're president of the United States, a tweet, 140 characters, could really change the course of a country. It could start a war, it could start a dispute, It could put companies out of business.
Sure.
That's what I mean. It comes with great responsibility.
It can do a lot of things. It can do a lot of positive, and I think it can be harnessed and used amazingly well, and I think that's exactly what he's going to do.
And even though President Trump is now in the business of running the country, questions still remain about potential conflicts of interest in the business he says he is leaving behind.
Do you really believe he's not going to be involved and say, what are you doing, how are you doing? You really believe that?
Yeah, I do. Listen, he's got the biggest task in the world ahead of him. There's nothing bigger than the presidency of the United States.
It's a big job, yeah. But the Trump organization is his baby, though, Eric. How does he just turn that off? And for you, not to be able to pick up the phone and call him about advice.
Sure. Well, listen, he turns it off in that he has to have trust in us, and we're going to do a great job. And
you nervous?
No, honestly, I'm excited, to tell you the truth.
We hear that all of the Trump family will be spending the first night in the White House. Is that true?
It's true.
How
And,
many people is that? And what are y'all going to be doing?
Well, it's really, Ivanka, Don, myself, Tiffany, Melania, and we're gonna be there together as a family, and it's really amazing, and that'll be a nice little kind of send off. And for me, in a certain way, this whole thing is bittersweet. I'm gonna be here in New York, and I'm gonna miss him tremendously. We've spent so much time together, here in the company, and it's gonna be different for us not walking down the halls every single day into his office and having him pop into us unexpected and not calling up his extension and immediately getting him on the phone, but he has a much higher goal, and that's of far greater importance.
As the inaugural ceremonies continued into the afternoon, protests erupted in the streets of Washington. Some of the demonstrations turned violent and chaotic. One group even set a car on fire.
Tomorrow, about 200,000 people are expected to descend on Washington for a massive women's march. 61% of Americans in a CBS News poll out this week say that Mr. Trump will divide the country. Peter Van Sant shows us how the harsh rhetoric of the campaign has caused anxiety and fear.
Just 25 miles from the nation's capital, a group of 10 and 11-year-olds have been thinking a lot about this day.
Tell me your feelings today. Donald Trump has been inaugurated as President of the United States.
I actually feel really scared, but I try not to think about it.
I think it's different now since Donald Trump's president. I think there has been an increase of racist people.
In the last year, I've heard people who said things that I won't say because I know I can't say them, and I know even if I could say them, I wouldn't.
Many adults would agree and argue that during the presidential campaign,
when Mexico sends its people, they're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists.
Donald Trump's blunt talk unleashed a crude side of our American identity that some thought was buried in our past.
We have to have a temporary ban on Muslims coming into this country. I'm sorry.
And all this tough talk has certainly been noticed by these fifth graders here at the Stedwick Elementary School in Montgomery County, Maryland. They represent the diversity that is the United States. Lynn's mother is from the African nation of Togo. Giovanni's parents are from Nicaragua and Peru.
Now that we have a new president, people are thinking wrong and doing stuff better.
Nora's parents came here from Indonesia.
When I heard Donald Trump first became elected, I felt a bit shook.
Perry's mom and dad are from Cameroon.
I'm scared someday he's gonna do what he said, and he's gonna take people away.
Even Brian is worried, and his parents are from Maryland.
The things he said about other people is not what a president should say.
I had overheard students talking about negative things that they had heard about Mexicans. And in my classroom, I actually had Mexican students.
Teacher Melinda Moye asked her students to write poems about what they'd heard people saying about them. Poems that were turned into this short video called The Lie.
The lie. Muslims are terrorists.
All black people are thieves.
People from Mexico bring nothing good. Latinos can't speak English well.
All of the words in the film are their own. It's what they wanted to share and what they wanted others to know.
Give me a sense of when you watched The Lie for the first time.
I broke into tears, and I'd heard the entire poetry presentation how many times?
Peggy Pastor is the school principal. Her son Kevin, a professional filmmaker, produced the video.
You should know, not all Muslims are terrorists. When my dad pulls up the news and I just hear Muslims are terrorists, Muslims are bad, I just feel really heartbroken.
It makes me kind of angry, and I really just want to stand up for them. But it's really hard to, because, I'm just a small person in a big world.
The sad truth is that Montgomery County has seen an epidemic of hate incidents in the past year.
We saw about a 32% increase from last year.
And the increase occurred right after the election.
County Police Chief Tom Manger.
But for some folks, this notion of civility has just gone out the window. And these folks feel empowered now to say and do hateful things.
Days after the election, at the predominantly immigrant Episcopal Church of Our Savior in nearby Silver Spring, this graffiti appeared. Robert Harvey is the rector.
One little boy came up to me after this 10 o'clock service was over, and he looked right at that message that was written on the brick wall, Trump Nation, whites only. And he said, "Is this the way it's going to be now?"
It is not an exaggeration to say that among the tens of millions of people who did not vote for Donald Trump, there is a sense of apprehension, even fear. One of those stories is here in McKinney, Texas. As she took the stage to give her valedictorian speech last June,
I'd like to offer you a different kind of speech.
19-year-old Larissa Martinez was on top of the world, headed to Yale University on a full scholarship. But she felt it important to let her classmates and eventually the country in on her biggest secret.
On July 11th, it will be exactly 6 years since I moved to McKinney from Mexico City, where I was born and raised. I am one of the 11 million undocumented immigrants living in the shadows of the United States.
Why did you decide to come out so publicly and in that moment? What was the thinking?
Well, the way I saw it was that maybe I could change people's minds. I didn't want them to think that all we are rapists and criminals, because that's not true.
Her immigration status was not an issue for Yale, but it was for some people on Twitter.
Larissa Martinez is not brave or strong. She is a thief, and there is only one way to deal with thieves like her. And then they posted this picture. You have to go back.
Now, Larissa is worried because by coming out of the shadows, she has exposed her 11-year-old sister Andrea and their mother. In 2010, all three flew to Texas on tourist visas, fleeing, their mom says, an abusive husband. No wall would have stopped them. They simply stayed here illegally and since then have behaved pretty much like everyone else.
And I pay my taxes and I do everything we have to do. We are not bad. We just want to have like a happy, safe life.
Larissa and her sister have applied for juvenile immigration visas, but the girls and their mother can be deported at any time.
I believe that everything we build day by day can be gone like this.
You're really worried.
Yes.
You don't know what the future holds.
No.
What kind of America do you hope to grow up in?
I want to be in America where things like hating people for their race won't exist, and everybody's able to get along with each other.
I just want it to be nice and quiet so everybody could have their own chance.
I want to become an American. That dream hasn't died yet.
President Trump and First Lady Melania Trump are capping off the inauguration with celebrations and some dances, too. The first of three balls, the Liberty Ball, the song of choice, John, Frank Sinatra's My Way.
You're going to see things happening over the next few weeks. Oh, you're going to be so happy.
You know, the balls remind us that this is a day of great joy for millions of people. Donald Trump made such an emotional connection, and they got it in the ceremony today, and all the pomp and circumstance that went towards that message. Of course, there's the other side, too, of him doing it his own way, all those people who didn't vote for him. His disruptive, uncompromising message today, that probably didn't comfort them.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what happens going forward. We're really just getting started on this new chapter in all of our lives, really. Article 2 of our Constitution has been satisfied. We have a new president, as you know, but Mr. Trump's inaugural address mended few fences, and while many embraced his call for radical change, much of the nation remains a little rattled tonight. So what now? We went in search of American voices.
Dear President Trump.
From the glistening avenues of the Capitol to the homes and heartland.
I want you to know that we fought really hard for you, and we will continue to fight for your conservative message. I can't even believe that makes me want to cry.
Dear President Trump,
American voices rang out.
I come from 2 migrant farm working parents, and they deserve to have a voice. We are their American dream.
On this day,
this is your day.
Because of this man,
this is your celebration.
There is hope.
I think that he is going to lead the country and be inclusive.
Dear President Trump.
And there is fear.
He has put being Muslim at odds with being American. And for me, being Muslim is the highest form of being American. I am your citizen, but I wonder if you're really my president.
The burning conversation engulfed the nation.
No KKK, no fascist USA! Hell no, no Trump!
Not a happy day.
From citizens to superstars.
But a day that will have a sunset like every other day.
Award-winning director of Selma.
Surprise! Advance!
Ava DuVernay.
It's up to forward-thinking people who believe in justice and dignity to determine what our days will be like going forward. Discomfort is action, educating ourselves is action, and all of those things will eventually culminate in change.
To see Donald Trump, the first reality star president in the White House, it's very surreal. So, but hey, man, that's America. That's how we do it.
Producer-comedian Larry Wilmore.
I am most concerned that this is an impetuous presidency that we're under. We're gonna be on this ride, and we don't know if this thing is gonna go off the tracks. We don't know what's gonna happen.
How did we come to this place?
Donald Trump, he tapped into a very visceral feeling in a lot of people.
I see you and I hear you.
Nobody had said that to half the population. And I'm going to make your pain, whatever it is, stop. That is powerful.
How do we heal? Conservative talk radio titan Glenn Beck.
We have to have, as Lincoln said, with charity for all and malice toward none. We have to get rid of the malice. We have to find our way back to each other.
For me, my answer is to resist. Every time something is said, I think it's important to speak out about it. It's important to talk about what challenges us.
My hope is we start realizing that I'm not a Democrat American or a Republican American. I'm an American American.
If I had one thing to ask or tell the president, it is always seek justice, love mercy, and walk humbly.
Donald Trump began day 1 of his presidency in the same uncompromising way he ran his campaign. Now, as he begins to govern, will he be able to deliver on his vision, and can he achieve it his own way?
I like what Larry Wilmore said. Hey, this is America. This is how we do it. The same country that elected Barack Obama has elected Donald J. Trump, and it really is democracy in action.
That's right.
And there's something to be said about that. It was a transition of power today. Before we go, we'd really like to thank the Jones Day Law Firm for this window on Washington. This is a gorgeous place. There will be more inauguration coverage on your local CBS station.
And on our streaming network, CBSN. For all of us, good night from Washington.